The lost era of anime will never get back. If they talk about like classic the classic 90s type of anime, I think that we have a chance because some people just are able to just like retake the style and remodel it. But let's check it out. Yeah, let's check it out.
There's the kind of anime Japan literally cannot make anymore. Not won't, can't. And these types of anime will never be made ever again.
Okay, then I'm curious because technically, if it's a style of if this is a style, some new anime actually did a retro type of like art direction for their anime, and it worked. It was completely like awesome. So I'm kind of curious what it means, you know.
The ominous ambiance, the ethereal scenery, the beautiful grotesque violence is something that Japan cannot produce in the same capacity. These shows were born in a window of time when studios had too much freedom, too little oversight, and just enough madness. And then one day, they disappeared. So there's just one thing I gotta know. What the hell happened to them? What killed this breed of anime? What changed so drastically that something this bold, this strange, this specific just stopped being made? Why do they feel like relics from another dimension? First, we need to figure out what these shows even were. And by the end of this, not only will you know exactly what kind of anime I'm talking about, you'll have a list of the most must-watch shows from this generation. And you'll understand why we'll never get anything like them ever again.
Okay, it made me even more curious. Actually, an interesting argument. So it was a culture thing. Okay, let's check it out. I'm actually really curious.
In 1983, a Japanese dude released a series that would spark a shift in anime so great, it shaped the next 2 decades. The series was called Dallos. It was totally unremarkable in terms of its story by modern standards, only remarkable in the way that it was released. Dallos was never shown on TV. Instead, it was immediately sent to video stores as a VHS tape, marking it as the first ever OVA. Original Video Animation.
Yeah, OVA became kind of like ways to that anime did spin-offs. Basically, the spin-off of an anime is usually called an OVA. Like, just so you know. But basically, like, there are like also OVAs that are based on stories that are like completely unique, you know, like it's like a one shot. But an OVAs, they last a little longer, so sometimes it's like the length of 2 episodes, sometimes the length of a movie. But yeah, OVA is an interesting like part of like the anime history, that is like not talked about enough, because most well-known animes, they all have OVAs.
This is Angel's Egg. After Dallos shocked all of Japan in 1983, studios quickly followed. So it was only 2 years later until we got this masterpiece. Set in a desolate primordial world where only a single girl wanders. All she wants is to protect this egg. She thinks it'll hatch into an angel, and maybe that'll fix the emptiness around her. But what happens when someone tries to break that egg? What happens when that egg breaks? What's so gripping from Angel's Egg is its atmosphere. It's how a story with almost no dialogue, only 2 characters in an ocean of silence, can be so distinct. The setting, the ominous music, mixed with how the movie lingers on stills, builds an encompassing eerie tension that made me stew in my own thoughts until I couldn't help but be flooded with questions. It's spectacular, one of the most evocative anime I've ever seen.
I heard about this anime. Actually, a good watch. I didn't got the time to actually get into it because it is apparently like a masterpiece within like its way to be rhythmed. But at the same time, it's the type of dark animes that really makes you fucking depressed sometimes when you finish watching them.
Something like this is only possible because it's an OVA. Now imagine for a second you tried pitching something like this to a modern production committee and they'd look at you like you were insane. But that's the thing. OVAs weren't built for mass appeal. They weren't meant to fill airtime or rake in box office numbers, because OVAs were designed to be bought physically before anyone ever saw a single frame. No TV broadcasts, no theatrical runs, just straight to VHS. And that gave creators a rare kind of freedom to make something stranger, slower, more specific, designed for a niche audience, with no time slots to fill, no censors to please, no runtime restrictions to worry about. It was just a director's unfiltered vision. This allowed them to create such distinct works that are missing in modern anime.
This is interesting. This is such a subculture and kind of like an anime movement. Maybe it can be called like that, but I never knew about. That's fascinating.
Which leads me to the next OVA that you might have missed, and I don't say this lightly. It might be the weirdest, most visually unhinged thing I've ever seen. Meet Cat Soup, an experimental short film released in 2001. It follows the story of these two cats in particular, where this one tragically passes away, and while her soul is leaving her body, her sibling does everything he can to stop it, resulting in her soul splitting in two, which leaves his sister as a husk of her former self. So he goes on an adventure through the land of the dead to try to bring her back to how she once was. It sounds dramatic to say, but this might genuinely be one of the weirdest, most original things I've ever watched. Experiencing a surreal, dialogue-free film centered around these two characters that's filled with existential imagery of a world collapsing in on itself is not something I could have ever expected. I mean that in the best way possible. The series is a perfect example of how wildly experimental an OVA can be.
This seems fascinating.
It has an awkward runtime of 35 minutes, it has no dialogue, and it has these stupid looking cats as the main characters. It's the kind of thing that would never get greenlit today. Likewise, I'd be shocked if you could find a current series as unapologetically provocative as this comedy OVA masterpiece. Now, Golden Boy is almost the OVA of OVAs to be watching from that older generation. It came out in 1995 with a dub that rivals the legendary titan of comedy anime dubs, Ghost Stories.
Think of a big black man chasing you!
Yeah, if you know, you know. If you saw the memes, what the fuck is this thing? What the fuck is this anime? Let's keep going.
Well, he's not racist.
Golden Boy is a show that embodies the, yo, let's all get fucked up and watch this show at 3 a.m. and laugh our asses off. Its formula is simple. New episode, new job, new girl, Kentaro starts tweaking out. And usually leads to chaos and life lessons. Nothing groundbreaking here. But here's the thing, it didn't really need to be. Back then, you would get this type of joke.
You son of a...
Now, you get something along the lines of this. That's a night and day difference, and I'm not saying one's better than the other, but they do come from completely different places. It's not just about laughs, it's about what we expect from a comedy and what we're willing to laugh at. See, in the 80s and 90s, OVAs were being sold directly to fans. You had to buy the damn thing if you wanted to watch it, which means the only people watching these shows were the hardcore fucking gooners who could only think about anime titties and spending money on that shit. So, of course, studios weren't trying to hit mass appeal. The masses literally couldn't watch these things. Instead, what rose to the top were the weird, the provocative, the unforgettable. And that's why you get jokes like this.
My queen! Oh, you're so naughty!
That's comedy gold to them. Today, with anime on every streaming platform, creators are thinking broader. Anyone can watch anything, anytime, anywhere. So creators aim for a wide appeal. And because OVAs were targeted at very specific demographics, you don't see a lot of tropes you're used to in modern anime. No high school settings, no power of friendship speeches. Instead, you get stuff that's cut from a more unique cloth. And well, because of who these shows were made for, you get things like this. This is Bubblegum Crisis, a slick cyberpunk OVA from 1987 that oozes style. It follows an all-female squad of mercenaries fighting corrupt megacorporations, rogue robots, and whatever else needs blowing up in a neo-lit Tokyo. And it might have the sickest opening 5 minutes I've ever seen in anime. It doesn't start with a little character introduction. It doesn't even start with a normal anime opening. It just hits you full on with a J-rock / city pop performance like a music video from a cooler timeline. It's not even an opening theme, it's just a song. Because why not? You would never get anything like that today in anime. Or how about Wicked City? Now, this one's for more real degenerates. The basic setup is this. There's a barrier between the human world and the demon world, but it's getting weaker, and demons disguised as people start leaking into the human world.
Oh, damn.
And let's just say, if you take the wrong girl home from a bar, you might not be waking up. You're catching every demon STD known to man and dying with zero dignity. So it follows a stoic demon hunter and a demon woman as they're tasked with protecting this man who will restore that barrier. It's sleazy, it's stylish, it's a little fucking sexual, but I gotta be honest, there's still something cool about it. Not because of the weird sex pest energy, but because it's bold. It was made with an audience in mind that doesn't really exist anymore. An audience that wanted violence, horniness, and some of the sickest hand-drawn animation you've ever seen. Every time I saw this scene, I was like, I love this stupid car, man. Now there's one more type of OVA that we need to talk about. I'm talking about OVAs born from early hype. When a manga was so gassed out of the gate, studios couldn't wait. They just had to cash in, even if it meant rushing out tiny half-baked adaptations way before the story was ready. Like Gunsmith Cats. It follows Rally and Minnie, two girls who run a gun shop by day and are bounty hunters by night. But here's the thing, the OVA isn't even a straight adaptation of the manga. It's an original side story. However, it's still pretty damn good. It's cute, it's fun, it's got some absolutely fire animation, and the opening looked so damn good. But when you watch it, you can feel that it's just a glimpse of what the full story could have been if it ever got a proper adaptation. Then there's also Yokohama Shopping Log, a quiet, reflective series set after humanity's decline in a post-cataclysmic world. It just follows a robot girl, living peacefully among the remnants of a fading world. It's cozy, it's slow, it's the anime equivalent of sitting on a porch with a cup of tea and watching the sunset. And it's so good precisely because it doesn't try to overdo it. There are tons of OVAs like these, early adaptations where studios bet big on a manga's potential, sometimes way too early. But that's the part of what makes them so special. Today, if a manga popped off like this, you'd expect a 13 to 25 episode full season, but back then, you might get 2 episodes in a VHS release. It would be like if someone adapted Chainsaw Man into an 8 episode OVA in 2019. Sure, this was gonna get an anime, but if you jump the gun that early, it's just too soon. That's why these early OVAs feel kinda like time capsules. They're not full adaptations. They're whispers of what could have been, snapshots of potential before the stories even fully bloomed. And if you're a fan of the original manga, these OVAs feel like little treasures. But it's not just OVAs that captured that feeling. It's not just the short, rough gems that we'll never see made this way again. There's a whole other side to this lost era of anime, and that's the films. So let me talk about a story that embodies that loss of grit.
It's really like anime did not, before Demon Slayer, anime movies were really something really niche and really kind of like forgotten. It was like it exists, and for some animes, if you're a big fan, let's say of Naruto or Dragon Ball Z, you can watch a movie. But it's really like before Demon Slayer, anime movies were really unpopular and really something that no one really cared about, you know?
And it's also my favorite anime film of all time. Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust follows D, a bounty hunter hired to retrieve a girl abducted by a vampire nobleman, Baron Meyer. At the same time, another group is hired for the same mission. The two parties race after Meyer, crossing deserts and wandering through swamps and breaking into invisible hideouts and clashing with shapeshifters and shadow weavers and werewolves all along the way. But the twist is, Charlotte wasn't kidnapped. She went with Meyer willingly, which throws everything into chaos. Will the bounty hunters stick with their contracts or let Charlotte live by her own choices? The straight up plot is not my real source of obsession with Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. I think it instead stems from the nuggets of an ending dedication to the minute details of the film. Its mystical creatures, its distinct character designs, its grandiose backgrounds, its elegant frames, its sweeping dynamic camera shots. It's these little details that flesh out the world and breathe all of the life into the story. And to me, the one moment that really captures that magic happens right after D's first encounter with the Marcus brothers. After the encounter, he rides alone into an empty desert. He dismounts from his horse, kneels by the ground, and examines faint tracks in the sand. At first, it feels quiet, still, like nothing is out there. And then you realize he's standing before a herd of sand mantas. And without hesitation, D leaps onto their backs, riding them across the wasteland. It's a scene that doesn't need many words. It doesn't need a fight. It's pure atmosphere, pure world building executed perfectly. And to me, that's the real beauty of Bloodlust. It's not about the flashiest fight choreo. It's not about having the most
This actually looks like a sick movie. Like, this actually is the character design in the art direction is just out of this world. What the fuck?
lavishly detailed backgrounds. It's about the elegance of the world itself. The quiet sense that this strange dying universe existed long before you started watching it and will keep existing after you're gone. When you see shots like this, you can almost feel the world D lives in. And when the film shifts from scenes like this to this, you can sense the vastness of the journey. The dedication to every detail in Bloodlust is overwhelming, and given a little more context, the story of why becomes a bit more clear. Back in 1985, there was another Vampire Hunter D movie, but compared to Bloodlust, it felt rushed, so much so that the original creator constantly criticized it. That failure lit a fire under the team behind Bloodlust, and I think it shows. Every frame feels handcrafted and deliberate, and in a way that Bloodlust would never understand. It was kind of like a farewell letter to an era. Because the truth is, anime like this only existed because of a perfect storm. A booming economy, loose censorship, and studios willing to throw cash at bizarre, risky visions. OVAs and films alike thrived in that chaos. But when Japan's economy collapsed in the 90s, the Wild West days dried up. Budget shrank, and risk tolerance disappeared. In 1994, there were 70 different OVAs. In 2024, just 5. That era is gone, and with it, a kind of anime that felt experimental, raw, and unforgettable. Sure, sparks of that energy still show up in shows like Devilman Crybaby or Cyberpunk Edgerunners, but they're rare. And maybe that's why these shows feel so special, not because they're perfect, but because they couldn't be made today. They were snapshots, strange, messy, and beautiful proof that anime once played by different rules. And now, they're waiting for someone curious enough to find them, dust them off, and remember what anime used to be capable of.
Oh my fucking god, thank you so much, Ban, for this video. This was actually fucking awesome. He talks about like a lot of like good animes. I heard about this one. I discovered Vampire Hunter D. It's really awesome, and it's really like a part of Japanese anime history that I really didn't know. So thank you so much, Bon. Don't forget to share the love.